Okay, so what I've been able to do so far is stick down the fabric to the inner edge. This sort of cardboard form is slowly being glued into place. Here the glue just needs a little bit more time to set. So I'm just using this weight here to help that set. Now interestingly, you'll notice that the raised bands really don't show through that well, versus the form. So I'm kind of resigned myself to the fact that this is going to be a smooth surface for all intents and purposes. There's really going to be no sort of show through of the bands at all, which honestly I'm completely comfortable with. The bands are there to hold the boards, they're not there to be decorative in any way. So that's something I'm totally fine with. So I'm going to leave the book there, let the glue continue to sort of dry and set. And going to go over to have a look at some stamping. So what I've been doing is some experimenting with this particular set that's kind of used for sort of belts and saddles and sort of bits of dress wear and so on. You can get it at Michael's for about 30-40 bucks, something like that. And what I did was a couple of experiments just to have a look at how we could potentially use this. So the first thing I did was this sort of letter MO that you can see at the top here. So that was me experimenting with just putting two of the stamping pieces next to each other and going bang bang with a hammer, and what happens. And the result is the letters come out fine, they're just a little far apart, and that's because obviously of the width of the blocks. I was able to get a slightly closer spacing by stamping the M, and then when it came to the O, I went as close as possible to the edge of the M and basically eyeballed it. And the result's a little bit closer, but it's still not really good enough. It looks slightly off. So I kind of abandoned that and instead resorted to doing something a little bit more scientific, actually, trying to measure the letters. And what became evident was, and I can just use this here, if these letters are basically, with one exception, all 3/16 of an inch across, the actual letters, not the stamps they're made on, but the letters. So basically, you count 3 spaces over, 1, 2, 3, and that encompasses the full dimensions of the M. A W goes slightly further, but that's the only exception. The O is the same, 1, 2, 3, maybe a little bit more room there, but basically the rule is 3/16 of an inch is the width of a letter. One exception, the letter I, which is only 1/8 of an inch. So that being said, it should be possible then to actually use the ruler, count spaces, and actually get a really good alignment of the letters using obviously the fact that the ruler's a straight surface. I mean, that'll help make sure everything's level as well. Problem with this is a metal ruler, and you can't put pen on metal ruler, the ink just comes off. So what I've done instead is I measured the marks that I want to make on a piece of, there we go, a piece of shim. Bend this up slightly, there we go. A piece of shim. So what we're looking at here is the midpoint of the 3/16 of an inch space for each letter. So this actually is the word church history. So CHURCH, then a space H. I notice the I is closer to its neighbours than the others because it's a narrower letter. So HISTORY. So this is a real experiment. So what I'm going to do now is attempt to create the words church history in this bit of scrap leather here. And we'll see whether anything I've just said is in any way viable. Okay. That is actually way better than I was expecting it would turn out. I'm actually quite pleased with that. So, given that turned out reasonably well, I have a total of 4 potential pieces of leather, if I cut this one in half, that I could fashion into labels. So what I'm going to do is basically prepare a complete title label and a sort of author's label, 2 of. And these will be the backups in effect. So if something goes horribly wrong in terms of stamping on the main piece of leather, I'll be able to use the labels to sort of cover my mistakes. But what we're going to end up with is, whether it be on the main piece of leather or here, we're going to end up with Church History of Great Britain as one label, so Church History of Great Britain. And then separately, we're going to have another label that says Thomas Fuller. And I may put the date 1655, or I may just leave it. Maybe I'll just leave it as Thomas Fuller. And that's what we're going to do next.